You hear this a lot in golf, or I have, is that you have to learn, they use the example of the runner learning to run downhill to run faster. And you see a lot of overspeed training. And 100% overspeed training allows you to swing faster, and that's how you increase your max. But I'd like to say it like this, is that a runner running downhill has maxed out every other aspect of their running ability, of their skills and their muscle, and that's the tip of the mountain of what you're seeing them do is actually go and practice overspeed running. Now, for the majority of people who play golf, especially in myself when I first started this, is that I had decently looking technique on camera, but there's a difference in somebody who learns to play golf at 2 or 3 years old versus somebody who picks it up later in life. And really that difference is how that person, and that difference is really invisible, is the craziest thing about it. And that difference that is invisible is that person who grew up playing's ability to manipulate their mass and maintain momentum. Now, even if you start later in life, unless you've played a lot of different other sports and you learn these things, until you learn how to manipulate momentum and mass and around your body rotationally, then you're never going to really get to the point to where overspeed training is going to be that beneficial to you, because what's going to happen is that you're not going to have the frame and the core components to be able to effectively and accurately throw that speed. And what I mean by that is, imagine if you had a big crane, a big swinging arm, and this swinging arm, went up here at the top and it wasn't the most efficient coming down. What it's going to have differences in momentum and jerks through there that are going to allow it to it's not going to be smooth going through there, and it's also not going to be the most efficient. So the easiest way and the biggest cheat code, and you'll see this, I knew this before I even had kids, but once I had kids, this really opened my eyes and go, wow, I think this really is the right way to, especially to learn golf, and it's the easiest way to learn speed, is that kids start with a club that's way too heavy for them, and they don't have the strength and the upper body strength to move this club. And so what happens is, if you have something heavy, and say you're like a big swinging arm thing right here, see how easy this is for me? But see, if I start doing this, I have to get these big jerky movements to come back and forth. Now, a kid learns how to play golf like this because if they come out here and then try and swing, they fall down. Or if they come through here, they tip over. And so because that mass is bigger for them, their body and their brain learns to manipulate it faster, and they learn to create these stable bases and generate power with their core. Now, this is invisible because this only moves like an inch. It's very good timing on here. So you take somebody who starts later in life at golf, or is really trying to generate speed without ever truly learning this in other sports. And what happens is, if you complicate this, you have a stick, you have swing path, and you have face control you're having to add on to it. It's way too complicated for your brain to really learn that. So that is why I'm such a big believer in, as adults or teenagers or people who are past that base, 7-year period where your brain's really learning all this subconsciously, is to make it simple and learn to do this with med balls. And you'll see me a lot. I've got a 20, a 12, a 6, and another 10-pound med ball. Now, if you were to just want to start and learn how to do this, the easiest way to do this would be to take a med ball and then swing it back and swing it forward. Swing it back and swing it forward. And you can see on there how centered my body looks. What I'm doing is invisible to the camera. It's invisible to the viewer, because what I'm actually doing is this small movement right here. My arms are like noodles. And see, I have just enough tension in here to hold on to this ball. I don't even have my thumbs on here. It's just very easy going back and forth. And so I can learn that movement, and I can train this in my body to where it'll actually translate into a golf swing or into any movement, whether it's baseball or anything else, and train this movement in here. You look at any other sport, specifically, I always love boxing, because boxing is one of my favorite ones to talk about this, because nobody in their right mind would look at a boxer and go, wow, his technique is better. If I could just learn that technique, I could go in there and fight with that person. What you'd have to do to go and fight with a high-level boxer was train, develop the motor skills. The technique would be like the icing on the cake, but you have to have a mountain of experience and coordination, motor skills, strengths, and movements to be able to go in there and compete with it. But for some reason at golf, we see a technique or we see something that looks good to our eye, and we think, wow, if I could make myself into this machine, I could learn how to do that. But this is really the hack into the motor skills of how your brain learns also. And again, I'll even do this down the line. I'm just rocking this back and forth. This is an easy drill, rocking it. And then from here, I mean, I'm just turning. And it's easy. And watch this. This is nothing but the turn, going back and forth. Now watch me add a little bit of lateral to this. And I'm talking an inch. I'm talking that rotation balancing, and then that inch back and forth. So here, rotation, 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 inch, inch. I mean, I can do it so fast and create so much movement without using my arms or anything, that this back and forth paired with this rotation just slings this thing off of me. And that's what you really have to have in golf. It was an epiphany for me because I've been doing this for years, but I work with Scott Cox Golf, and he was talking about, I did impact one time, and he goes, you have way too much tension in your arms. And I was like, what are you talking about? He said, your arms have to be like noodle arms. And I learned that. I was like, wow, it's the same way I move the med ball. Is that in that model of that string with the ball on it, if that string were to lock up for 1 second, what would happen? That ball would go past it, and you would lose a break in that energy and that efficiency onto it. So I hope this doesn't make this too complicated, but realize that the whole basis of this channel is being able to learn the movements and motor skills and the manipulation of momentum in golf without actually having to practice golf. I break this down into a few things is where I learn all these things in this building. This is not golf, this is learning a skill, and then I let this skill drip feed into the rest of my game, so I have to practice less, because that's my whole mentality is what's the least amount that I can practice to still play at a decent level to where I can go enjoy the rest of my life and teach this to my kids and run this many YouTube channels. So thanks for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe to this channel, and check out for more.